The sun was setting behind the dry hills, casting a soft orange light over the empty land. Armin stood alone in his field, holding a small bag of seeds in his hand. His clothes were old and dusty, and his face showed years of struggle. Life had never been easy for him. Every day was the same fight for food, water, and survival. The wind moved slowly across the land, carrying silence with it. There were no people nearby, no sound of machines, just the quiet life he had always known. But that evening felt different. Armin looked up at the sky. Something was wrong. The clouds were not moving like normal. They were sharp, almost like lines. And there was a strange glow behind them. At first, he thought it was a storm. But storms did not look like that. The light grew stronger, turning from orange to white, then to a deep blue. The air became heavy, and the ground under his feet started to shake. Armin stepped back, his heart beating faster. Then suddenly, a loud sound broke the silence. A burning object tore through the sky, leaving a trail of fire behind it. It moved fast, too fast, and crashed far away beyond the hills. The ground shook hard. Birds flew away in fear, and the air filled with dust. Armin stood frozen, staring at the place where the object had fallen. He knew one thing, that was not from this world. For a moment, fear told him to stay away, to go back home and forget what he saw. But something else pulled him forward. Curiosity. Slowly, carefully, Armin began to walk toward the crash site. Each step heavy, each breath deep. The sky slowly returned to normal, but the silence felt louder than before. After a long walk, he reached the hills. Smoke was rising into the air, and a strange metallic smell filled his nose. As he got closer, he saw it. A broken ship, unlike anything he had ever seen. Its surface was smooth and glowing. Parts of it were burning, and strange lights flickered on and off. Armin's hands trembled. He wanted to run, but then he heard something. A soft sound, almost like crying. He stopped, listening carefully. There it was again, weak, small, and full of pain. Armin slowly moved around the broken ship, his eyes searching, his heart pounding. Then he saw her, a woman, not a normal woman. Her skin had a soft glow. Her clothes looked royal but torn and burned. She was on her knees, barely able to move. And in her arms, she held a small child. The child was not crying loudly, just small, weak sounds, like she had no strength left. Armin froze, his mind unable to understand what he was seeing. The woman looked up at him. Her eyes were filled with fear and pain, but also something else. Hope. She tried to speak, but her voice was broken. The words were strange, not from any language he knew. Armin stepped back in fear, but then something unexpected happened. A small device near her neck blinked, and suddenly her voice changed. Now he could understand her. "Please," she whispered, her voice shaking. Armin's breath stopped. She lowered her head, slowly, with great effort. Then the alien princess, someone who looked like she came from a world far beyond the stars, kneeled before him. A simple human. "Please, save my daughter," she said, holding the child closer, her hands trembling. Armin's heart pounded in his chest. He looked at the child. Her eyes were barely open, her breathing weak. This was no trick. This was real. A princess from another world, begging him, a poor farmer with nothing to offer. The wind blew softly around them, carrying the weight of the moment. Armin did not know who she was. He did not know where she came from, and he did not know what danger might follow. But one question burned inside his mind. Why would someone so powerful bow before someone like him, and what was coming next? Armin stood still for a few seconds, his mind confused and his heart racing. He had never seen anything like this before. An alien princess was kneeling in front of him, asking for help, and in her arms, a small child was slowly losing strength. He swallowed hard and took a careful step closer. His fear was still there, but something stronger was growing inside him. He looked at the child again. Her small body was weak, her breathing slow, her eyes barely open. This was not something he could ignore. Without saying anything, Armin bent down and gently picked up the child, his hands shaking slightly. He had never even held a child before. The princess looked at him with surprise, her eyes filled with hope. Careful, she whispered softly. Armin nodded, even though he did not fully understand her world. He understood one thing. The child needed help. Come, he said in a low voice, gesturing toward his home. The princess tried to stand, but her body was too weak. She almost fell. Armin quickly moved to support her, helping her walk slowly, step by step, away from the broken ship. The smoke still rose into the sky behind them, a silent sign that something terrible had happened. After a long and slow walk, they finally reached Armin's small house. It was simple, made of old wood and mud, with very little inside. Armin placed the child gently on his bed, covering her with a thin cloth. The princess stood near the door, looking around, her eyes studying everything. This place, she said slowly, so simple. Armin did not reply. He went to bring some water, his mind still trying to understand everything. He handed the water to her. She looked at it for a moment, then drank carefully. Her hands were still shaking. After a few moments of silence, she touched the small device near her neck. It blinked again. Then she looked at Armin. My words, clearer now, she said. Armin nodded slowly. Who are you? He asked, his voice unsure. The princess took a deep breath, as if preparing herself. I am Lyra, princess of the Elorian Empire, she said. Armin frowned slightly. The name meant nothing to him. Our world, far from here, many stars away. She continued, her voice became heavy, filled with pain. We were attacked. Armin listened carefully, not interrupting. An enemy race. Strong, cruel. They destroyed our cities, our people. Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not stop. They wanted power. Our energy, our knowledge. Armin looked at the child again, then back at her. You escaped, he said slowly. Lyra nodded. Yes, I took my daughter. We ran. She looked down, her voice softer now. We lost everything. The room became quiet again. The only sound was the weak breathing of the child. Armin felt something heavy in his chest. He did not fully understand her world, but he understood loss. And now? He asked. Lyra looked up, fear returning to her eyes. They are still searching. Armin's body tensed. Searching. Here. She nodded slowly. Yes, they track us. They will not stop. At that moment, a strange sound came from outside. A low humming noise, almost like something moving in the air. Armin froze, his eyes moving toward the door. What is that? He whispered. Lyra's face turned pale. They are close, she said quietly. Armin's heart started beating faster already. So soon. He looked at his small house, at the weak child on his bed, and then at the frightened princess. This was no longer just about helping someone. This was danger, real danger. He could walk away. He could tell them to leave. He could save himself for a moment. That thought crossed his mind. But then the child made a small sound, a weak, soft cry. Armin looked at her, and in that moment his decision was made. No, he said quietly but firmly. Lyra looked at him, surprised. I will help, he continued, even though fear was still inside him. His voice did not shake. Lyra's eyes widened. She could not believe what she was hearing. A human helping us. She whispered. Armin did not reply. He was already moving, thinking, planning. Hide, he said quickly, pointing toward a small space under the floor. Lyra nodded and carefully picked up her daughter. The humming sound outside grew louder, closer. Something was coming. Something not from this world. And now, Armin had made his choice. He was part of this, whether he wanted it or not. The low humming sound outside grew louder, filling the air with fear. Armin stood near the door, his body tense, his eyes focused. He had never faced anything like this before, but he knew one thing clearly. Something dangerous was coming. Inside the small house, Lyra quickly moved toward the hidden space under the floor, holding her daughter close. The child was still weak, barely moving. Hurry, Armin whispered, lifting the wooden cover. Lyra carefully stepped down into the dark space, trying not to make any noise. She held her daughter tightly, protecting her from everything above. Stay quiet, Armin said, his voice low but firm. Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with fear and trust at the same time. Armin closed the wooden cover slowly, covering it with an old rug, making it look like nothing was there. The humming sound became sharper now, almost like metal cutting through the air. Then suddenly, a bright blue light flashed through the small window. Armin stepped back, his heart pounding hard. Something was outside. He moved closer to the window and looked out carefully. In the dark sky he saw them, small flying machines, smooth and black, with glowing blue lines across their bodies. They moved silently but fast. Scanning the ground below, Armin's breath became heavy. They found them. He whispered to himself. The machines slowly moved closer to his house, as if searching, as if knowing something was hidden there. One of the machines stopped right above his roof. A soft beam of light came down, scanning everything. Armin quickly stepped away from the window, his mind racing. He had to act normal. He had to hide the truth. A loud mechanical sound came from outside. Then, heavy footsteps, not human, not animal, something else. Armin stood still as the door shook slightly. Knock, knock, knock. The sound was slow, strong, and cold. For a second, Armin thought about not opening it, but he knew that would only make things worse. Taking a deep breath, he walked toward the door and opened it slowly. Standing outside were two tall figures, covered in dark armor, their faces hidden behind smooth masks, their eyes glowing faint blue. They did not speak at first, just stared at him. Armin felt a chill run through his body, but he forced himself to stay calm. One of them stepped forward. A strange voice came out, not natural, like a machine trying to speak. Detection signal. Located in this area. Armin frowned slightly, pretending confusion. I don't understand, he said slowly. The figure tilted its head slightly, studying him. Unknown life form. Human, it said. The second one raised its hand, a small device glowing in its palm. Scanning Armin, Armin stayed still, his hands at his sides. He could feel his heart beating loudly in his chest, but he did not move. Have you seen foreign beings? The first one asked. Armin shook his head, keeping his voice steady. No. I live alone. The two figures remained silent for a moment. Then suddenly, one of the flying machines above sent a sharper beam of light toward the ground. Scanning deeper, Armin's eyes widened slightly. It was getting closer to the house, closer to the hidden space, closer to Lyra and her child. The figure in front of him turned its head toward the beam, then back to Armin. Energy traces detected. It said slowly. Armin felt fear rising inside him. They knew something, not everything, but something. He needed to act fast. There's nothing here, Armin said again, this time a little louder, trying to sound annoyed. Just land. And dust. The figure stepped closer, now only a few steps away from him. Permission to search. It said. Armin's mind froze for a second. If they entered the house, it would be over. Everything would be over. He looked behind him for a brief moment, then back at them. No, he said firmly. The word surprised even him. The two figures paused, as if not expecting that answer. You refuse. The voice said. Armin nodded slowly. This is my home, he said. His voice stronger now. For a moment, the air became heavy, full of tension. The machines above continued scanning, the beam now almost touching the house. The figures stood still, deciding their next move. Then suddenly, the ground under the house made a small sound. A very small sound, but enough. One of the figures turned its head sharply toward the door. Movement detected. It said. Armin's heart dropped. They heard it. The danger was no longer coming. It was here. And now there was no place left to hide. The moment the armored figure said, movement detected, the air inside and outside the house became heavy with danger. Armin's heart was beating so loud he felt they could hear it. But his face stayed calm, his eyes steady. He took one small step forward, blocking the doorway with his body. There are rats under the floor, he said quickly, trying to sound normal. Old house. Always noise. The two figures did not move, their glowing eyes fixed on him. For a long second, nothing happened. Then one of them slowly lowered its head. Scanning again, The beam from above shifted slightly, then moved away from the house. Signal weak. The machine voice said. The other one turned toward the sky, as if receiving a message. After a moment, it stepped back. Area scan incomplete. Continuing search. It said. Armin did not move, did not breathe too deeply. Finally, both figures turned away and walked back into the dark, their heavy steps fading slowly. The flying machines rose higher, their blue lights becoming smaller and smaller, until the sky was empty again. Silence returned, but it was not peaceful. It was the silence after danger. Armin stood still for a few more seconds, making sure they were truly gone. Then his body relaxed suddenly, and he let out a deep breath. He quickly closed the door and rushed to the floor, pulling away the rug. It's safe. Come out. He whispered. The wooden cover moved slowly. Lyra appeared first, her face pale, her eyes full of fear. She climbed out carefully, holding her daughter close. The child was still weak, but alive. Lyra looked at Armin, her eyes searching his face. They left, she said softly. Armin nodded. For now. He replied. Lyra stepped closer, her voice filled with emotion. You protected us. Armin looked away for a moment, uncomfortable with her words. I just didn't let them in. He said simply, but Lyra knew it was more than that. A human, a simple man with no power, had stood in front of soldiers from the stars. For her child, she lowered her head slightly, not as a princess now, but as a mother. Thank you. She whispered. The child made a small sound, a weak movement in her arms. Both of them looked down. Her eyes opened, just a little soft and tired. Armin stepped closer, slowly. Is she okay? He asked. Lyra shook her head gently. She needs energy, food, rest. Armin thought for a moment, then quickly moved to a small shelf. Taking what little food he had, some bread, some milk, he brought it to them, placing it carefully near the child. It's not much, he said. Lyra looked at the food, then at him, her eyes filled with something new, respect. She carefully fed a little to her daughter, slow and gentle. The child responded. Weak but alive. Minutes passed in quiet. The danger outside was gone for now, but inside the small house, something else was growing. Trust. The child slowly reached out a tiny hand, moving it in the air without direction. Armin hesitated, then gently placed his finger near her hand. The small fingers wrapped around his, soft and fragile. He froze for a moment, surprised. The child held his finger tightly, as if she did not want to let go. A small, weak smile appeared on her face. Armin felt something change inside him, a feeling he had never known before. Lyra watched this quietly, her eyes soft. In our world, she said slowly, we were told humans are dangerous, selfish. She paused, looking at him holding her child's hand. But you are not. Armin did not know what to say. He just looked at the child. She's just a kid. He said simply. Lyra gave a small, sad smile. Yes, she is. Outside, the night grew darker, the stars slowly filling the sky. Inside the small house, the fear was still there. Hidden in the shadows, the enemy could return at any time. But for this moment, there was peace. A strange, quiet peace between two worlds. A human, an alien princess, and a child who did not care about war, power, or planets. She only cared about the hand she was holding. And in that moment, Armin realized something. This was no longer just about helping strangers. This was something more, something deeper, and whatever came next, he would not walk away. The night had grown deep and quiet, but the silence did not feel safe anymore. Armin sat near the door, listening carefully to every small sound outside, his eyes heavy but his mind awake. He knew they could come back at any time. Across the room, Lyra rested against the wall, holding her daughter close. The child was sleeping now, her breathing still weak but more stable than before. For a moment, everything seemed calm. But that calm did not last. A sudden sharp sound cut through the night, like metal slicing the air. Armin's eyes opened wide, his body instantly alert. They are back, Lyra whispered, her voice filled with fear, before Armin could respond. A bright red light flashed through the window, stronger than before. The ground shook slightly, dust falling from the ceiling. This time, they were not just searching. They had found them. "Stay here," Armin said quickly. Standing up, Lyra shook her head. "No, they are stronger now," she said. Another loud sound hit the side of the house. Wood cracking under the force. The walls would not hold for long. Armin looked around quickly, his mind racing. He had no weapons, no power, nothing like the enemies outside. But he had something else. He knew this land. "Come with me," he said. He moved toward the back of the house, lifting a hidden wooden panel, revealing a narrow path that led underground. Lyra followed, holding her daughter tightly. "What is this?" she asked. "Old storage tunnel," Armin replied. "Used long ago." Another sound shook the house above them, louder now, closer. They did not have much time. Armin guided her into the tunnel, then quickly covered the entrance behind them. Darkness surrounded them, broken only by a small light he carried. The air was cold and tight. They moved carefully through the narrow path, step by step. Above them, a loud crash echoed. The house had been broken. "They are inside," Lyra said, her voice shaking. Armin clenched his jaw but kept moving. The tunnel split into two paths ahead. Armin paused for a second, thinking fast. "They will scan this area," he said. "We need to confuse them." He turned to Lyra. "You take the left path. Go slow. Stay quiet." Lyra looked at him, confused. "And you?" she asked. "I go right," Armin said. Her eyes widened. "No, we stay together." Armin shook his head. "If we stay together, they find us faster," he said. The sound of heavy movement above grew louder. They were searching below now. There was no time to argue. Lyra looked at him, fear and doubt in her eyes. "But also trust. You will come back," she said softly. Armin gave a small nod. "Go," he said. Without another word, Lyra turned and moved into the left path, disappearing into the darkness with her child. Armin watched for a second, then turned and ran into the right path, his steps quick but careful. Moments later, a loud mechanical sound echoed through the tunnel. The enemy had found the entrance. Bright scanning lights filled the darkness behind him. "They are coming," Armin whispered to himself. He moved deeper into the tunnel, picking up loose stones and throwing them down different paths, creating noise, confusion. The scanners followed the sounds, splitting their forces. It was working, but only for a moment. One of the machines suddenly changed direction, heading straight toward him. Armin's heart pounded. It had detected him. He ran faster now, the narrow tunnel making it hard to move. The sound of metal chasing him grew closer. There was no escape ahead, only a dead end. Armin stopped suddenly, turning around, breathing hard. The machine appeared in front of him, its glowing eye locking onto him. "Target confirmed," it said. Armin looked around quickly, finding a long metal rod lying on the ground. It was old, rusted, but strong enough. He picked it up tightly, his hands firm. He was not a fighter. He was not a hero, just a simple man. But he would not run anymore, not now, not when a child's life depended on him. The machine moved closer, raising a weapon. Armin took a deep breath, then stepped forward, ready to fight something far beyond his world. The machine moved forward with cold precision, its glowing eye fixed on Armin, its weapon rising slowly, ready to strike. Armin tightened his grip on the rusted metal rod, his hands shaking, but his eyes steady. He knew he could not win this fight with strength, but he could not run either. Behind him, somewhere in the darkness, Lyra and her child were trying to survive. That was enough for him. The machine fired a sharp beam of light. Armin jumped to the side just in time, the beam hitting the wall and burning deep into the stone. Heat filled the narrow tunnel, dust falling from above. Armin rushed forward, swinging the metal rod with all his strength. It struck the machine's side with a loud clang. The impact pushed it slightly, but did not stop it. The machine turned instantly, faster than any human, and hit Armin hard. He was thrown back against the wall, pain exploding through his body. The rod slipped from his hand, falling to the ground. For a moment, everything went quiet in his ears. Then the sound returned, louder, sharper. The machine stepped closer again, its weapon glowing brighter. Armin tried to stand, but his legs felt weak, his chest burning with pain. Still, he forced himself up, slowly. He could not fall now. Not yet. The machine aimed directly at him. Threat must be eliminated. It said. Armin looked at it, breathing heavily. Then suddenly, he made a choice. Instead of moving away, he stepped forward. The machine fired again. This time, the beam hit him. A sharp, burning pain tore through his side. Armin gasped, his body shaking. But he did not fall. He kept moving forward, step by step. The machine paused for a fraction of a second, as if confused. No human should move like that after a direct hit. But Armin did not stop with his last strength. He grabbed the fallen metal rod and swung it again. This time, he aimed at the glowing eye. The rod struck hard. A loud crack filled the tunnel, sparks flying into the darkness. The machine froze, its light flickering wildly. Then it collapsed to the ground with a heavy sound. Silence followed. Armin stood there, breathing hard, his body barely holding him up. The pain in his side grew stronger, warm blood slowly spreading across his clothes. He looked down for a moment, then closed his eyes briefly. There was no time to rest. Not yet. Far behind him, faint sounds of movement echoed through the tunnel. More machines, more danger. Armin forced himself to move again, step by step, deeper into the tunnel. Every movement hurt, every breath heavy, but he kept going. After what felt like a long time, he saw a faint light ahead, and then a soft voice. Armin. Lyra. He reached the end of the tunnel and saw her standing there, holding her daughter close. Her eyes widened in shock as she saw him. "You are hurt," she said, rushing toward him. Armin tried to smile, but his face showed the pain clearly. "It's nothing," he said quietly. Lyra looked at the blood, her hands trembling. "This is not nothing," she whispered. She carefully helped him sit down against the wall. Her daughter looked at him with weak, soft eyes. Armin glanced at the child. "She's safe?" he asked. Lyra nodded quickly. "Yes." "Because of you." Her voice broke slightly. "Why?" she asked, her eyes searching his face. "Why would you risk your life for us?" Armin stayed silent for a moment, breathing slowly. Then he looked at the child again. "She's just a kid," he said softly. "She didn't choose this war." Lyra's eyes filled with emotion, tears forming as she listened. In her world, power mattered, status mattered. But here, in this dark tunnel, a human with nothing had chosen to fight for someone he did not even know. Not for reward, not for honor, but because it was right. Lyra lowered her head slightly, her voice filled with respect. "You are stronger than any warrior I have known." Armin shook his head weakly. "I'm not strong," he said. "I just didn't walk away." The sound of distant machines echoed again, growing closer. There was no time left. Lyra looked up, determination now in her eyes. "We move now," she said. She adjusted her hold on her daughter, then helped Armin stand again. His body was weak, but his will was still there. Together, they moved forward into the unknown, a wounded human, an alien princess, and a child worth more than any war. And behind them, the enemy was still coming. The tunnel opened slowly into the outside world, the cold night air touching their faces as they stepped out. Armin leaned heavily on Lyra, his strength almost gone. Every step felt like a battle, but he kept moving. Behind them, the distant sounds of machines echoed, growing louder, closer. "They are still following," Lyra said, her voice tense. Armin nodded weakly. "We need to keep going," he replied. They moved across the rocky land, the sky above filled with silent stars. The same stars that had once brought Lyra from her world. But now, those stars felt far away. Suddenly, a bright light appeared in the sky, stronger than before, different. Armin looked up, his eyes narrowing. Another ship. But this one did not move like the enemy machines. It was larger, brighter, and its light felt calm. Lyra stopped, her eyes wide. "Wait," she whispered. The ship slowly descended, its soft white glow covering the ground around them. The air became still, almost peaceful. Armin's body tensed, unsure if this was help or more danger. Then a voice came from the light, clear and gentle. "Princess Lyra." Lyra stepped forward, her face filled with emotion. "It's them," she said softly. From the light, several figures appeared, their armor different, their presence calm, not threatening. "Royal Guard?" Lyra whispered. They had found her. They had come to save her. The soldiers moved quickly toward her, scanning the area, forming a protective circle. "Your Highness, we have been searching for you," one of them said. Lyra nodded, but her attention turned immediately to Armin. "He saved us," she said, her voice strong despite everything. The soldiers looked at Armin, noticing his wounds, his weak state. "He needs help," Lyra added. Without hesitation, two of them moved forward, supporting Armin carefully. He tried to stand on his own, but his body finally gave in. The pain, the exhaustion, everything hit him at once. His vision blurred, the world spinning slowly. Before everything faded, he saw the small child reaching toward him, her tiny hand moving weakly. Then darkness. Time passed, slowly, quietly. When Armin opened his eyes again, everything felt different. The air was clean, the light soft, the pain in his body gone. He looked around, confused. The room was not his home, it was something else. Smooth walls, glowing lights, silent machines. "You are awake," a gentle voice said. Armin turned his head. Lyra stood there, her daughter in her arms, both safe, both alive. Armin tried to sit up, but she raised her hand slightly. "Rest," she said softly. Armin looked at himself. His wounds were healed, his body whole again. "What happened?" he asked slowly. "Our healers saved you," Lyra replied. "You gave everything. Now we return that gift." Armin stayed silent for a moment, taking it all in. Then his eyes moved to the child. She was awake now, stronger, her eyes bright, full of life. She looked at him, then smiled, a small but real smile. Armin felt something warm in his chest. "She's okay," he said quietly. Lyra nodded, her eyes soft. "Yes, because of you." There was a moment of silence, calm and peaceful. Then Lyra stepped closer, her expression serious now. "Come with us," she said. "Our world. We can give you anything, safety, honor, a new life." Armin looked at her, then slowly shook his head. "This is my home," he said simply. "I don't belong among the stars." Lyra watched him, understanding in her eyes. "You already changed the stars," she said softly. The child reached out her hand toward him again, just like before. Armin gently held it, smiling slightly. For a moment, no words were needed. Then the time came. The ship waited, the stars calling them back. Lyra stepped back slowly, holding her daughter close. "We will not forget you," she said. Armin nodded. "Take care of her," he replied. The child looked at him one last time, her small hand waving slightly. Then they stepped into the light. The ship rose into the sky, slowly at first, then faster, until it became just another star in the night. Armin stood there alone again. The land quiet, the sky empty, but something had changed. He was still a simple man, still living the same life, but now, somewhere among the stars, a child lived, because he chose to care. And that night, without power, without weapons, without fear, a human proved something to the universe, that even the smallest kindness can be stronger than war.